Have you ever stood before a tree and felt something stir inside you? A calm presence, a quiet strength, as though the tree itself were speaking without words? That sensation is not a trick of imagination. It is the faint echo of a language older than civilization, a frequency that flows through every living being, waiting for us to hear it again. Ancient traditions claimed that this frequency is the foundation of life itself, a hidden code that can awaken energy, sharpen clarity, and realign human consciousness with the rhythms of the universe. The Egyptian deity Thoth, often called the scribe of the gods, described this mystery as the language of creation. Yet before temples honored him as a divine figure, legends recall him as a wise king, a priest-scientist ruling in a world long erased from human memory, Atlantis. Unlike monarchs who relied on armies or conquest, Thoth governed through wisdom. His people had mastered a level of spiritual and technological harmony that today might sound like myth or science fiction. They understood that consciousness was not a byproduct of life, but its very foundation. The most advanced technology was not external machinery, but the disciplined cultivation of inner power. When Atlantis met its cataclysm, swallowed by floodwaters and seismic upheaval, Thoth did not perish with his homeland. Survivors tell that he carried a mission rather than merely fleeing disaster, the preservation of Atlantean knowledge. Guiding a circle of followers, he sailed east, eventually establishing a colony on the soil that would one day be Egypt. There, fragments of Atlantean wisdom fused with the native culture, accelerating its development in ways that continue to puzzle historians and archaeologists. Accounts insist his reign lasted not decades but millennia, characterized by peace, learning, and a reverence for universal law. In this role, Thoth was not just a king. He became an archivist of cosmic principles, a custodian of the hidden structures underlying reality itself. He recognized that planets circling the heavens, rivers coursing through valleys, and the electrical impulses firing inside human brains were all expressions of the same underlying order. The universe was not chaos by chance. It was an intelligent design, a symphony composed of frequencies interacting in perfect correspondence. Before leaving the physical plane, Thoth is said to have crystallized this knowledge into a physical artifact, an object of imperishable brilliance that transmitted light itself. This was the legendary Emerald Tablets. The tablets, according to myth, are no ordinary relics. They encode the Hermetic principles, universal laws that govern creation. Among these, one phrase has resonated through centuries: as above, so below. As within, so without. At first glance, it appears almost simple, but it is in fact the master key. It declares that the macrocosm and the microcosm mirror one another, that the same laws that orchestrate galaxies also pulse through the human soul. There is no real separation between stars in the heavens and thoughts in our minds. Both are vibrations in the same vast field of consciousness. From this insight arises a profound shift in perspective. True communication is not limited to sound waves carried by our voices, or to words received by our ears. At the deepest level, communication happens from consciousness to consciousness, through vibration and energy exchange. This is the heart of Thoth's legacy, and the hidden thread linking ancient wisdom to the natural world around us. It is here that trees emerge as more than silent scenery. They are living embodiments of the language of creation, guardians of frequencies humanity has forgotten how to perceive. To learn from them is not to embrace naive romanticism about hugging trees, but to recognize portals of energy standing all around us. A forest, then, is not a cluster of resources for timber or land. It is a cathedral of frequencies, each trunk and leaf vibrating with memory older than our written history. The ancient record of Thoth aligns with what esoteric traditions from Druids to Taoists have long insisted. Trees are conscious participants in the universal network of life. They absorb energy from earth and sky, transform heavy forces into light, and serve as transmitters of balance. To reawaken the language of creation, one must turn to them, not as objects but as teachers. Modern science, surprisingly, is beginning to confirm this worldview. Beneath the soil lies a hidden web of mycorrhizal fungi connecting tree roots in what ecologists now call the wood wide web. Through this organic internet, Trees send nutrients to weakened neighbors, warn each other of pests, and nurture seedlings as though guided by parental care. It is as if the forest itself is one organism, an intelligent superbeing operating through countless green cells. Thus, what once seemed mystical metaphor is being verified in laboratories and forests across the world. Ancient myths and modern data point to the same truth. Trees do not merely grow. They communicate. They do not simply stand. They resonate. And through them we can access the frequency Thoth named the language of creation. A key not to wealth or conquest, but to awakening the dormant power within our own consciousness. This is where the journey begins. To hear the silent voice of a tree is to step onto the oldest path of wisdom known to humanity. It is not an escape into fantasy, but a return to reality in its purest form. The invitation stands before us each time we walk through a park, a garden, or a forest. The only requirement is presence, respect, and the willingness to listen. For centuries, human eyes looked at forests and saw only competition. Trees were imagined as solitary beings fighting for sunlight, water, and space. The tallest, broadest, or fastest growing were assumed to be the victors, while weaker ones inevitably withered. That image suited an industrial mindset. A forest as a warehouse of wood, a collection of raw materials waiting to be consumed. Yet this view was tragically incomplete. Slowly, research has begun to reveal a deeper truth, one that ancient peoples intuitively grasped but modern science had long overlooked. In the late 20th century, ecologist Suzanne Simard and others uncovered what became one of the most astonishing findings in environmental biology. Beneath the forest floor stretches an intricate network of fungal threads, known as mycorrhizae. These microscopic filaments weave themselves into and around tree roots, linking individuals into a vast underground communication system. This hidden web, sometimes called the wood wide web, is not merely structural. It is a living network of information and nourishment. Through it, trees share carbon, nitrogen, and other essential nutrients. Stronger individuals support seedlings and shaded neighbors. Mature trees called mother trees act like hubs of generosity, channeling resources to their own offspring and to other species alike. They warn nearby plants of insect infestations by releasing chemical signals that travel through the fungal pathways. They even appear to recognize kin, favoring their genetic relatives with extra attention. What once seemed like competition begins to resemble cooperation at an extraordinary scale. This shift in perspective echoes the wisdom of ancient traditions. Druids in Celtic Europe regarded forests as sacred assemblies, where every tree had its role in the harmony of the whole. Taoist sages in China perceived trees as energetic antennas, roots drinking in yin, the grounding energy of earth, while branches stretched upward to absorb yang, the celestial force of the sky. To them, the forest was not inert scenery, but a chorus of voices, each species adding its note to the universal symphony. The biological data reinforces what these traditions symbolically taught. Forests are not silent, they hum with exchange. Every molecule of carbon flowing from one tree to another is a message of solidarity, a gesture of survival beyond the individual. Every chemical alert sent to warn of a beetle attack is a signal of shared fate. In modern language, this is ecology. In ancient language, it was wisdom. Both point to the same reality. A forest is a single organism expressing itself through many forms. Understanding this truth changes how we experience being among trees. The sense of peace or renewal many feel in a woodland is not merely psychological relaxation or the pleasure of fresh air. It is a direct immersion in a field of balanced frequencies, where countless interactions of life energy resonate together. Japanese researchers who developed Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, demonstrated measurable effects: reduced cortisol, stabilized blood pressure, improved immune response. But beneath the physiology lies a subtler dynamic. By walking through a forest, we align our bodies with a superorganism whose primary qualities are cooperation, stability, and harmony. Trees also act as transmuters of energy. Just as they transform carbon dioxide into oxygen, they appear to absorb dense, stagnant energies, including the emotional residue humans carry, and recycle them into vitality. This explains the lightness and clarity felt after time in nature. The forest does not judge or resist. It processes. Ancient Taoist manuals described practices of absorbing the tree's ki, advising disciples to lean against trunks, release burdens, and allow replenishment. In modern terms, this is energetic composting. What is heavy and toxic is taken in, broken down, and returned as nourishment. Yet these exchanges are not uniform. Each species resonates with distinct qualities, much like instruments in an orchestra. Oaks embody resilience and grounded strength, their deep roots symbolizing perseverance in storms. Willows, flexible and water-loving, echo intuition, emotion, and adaptability. Pines, celebrated in Chinese lore, radiate longevity and vitality, their evergreen needles representing endurance through seasons. From birch to cedar, every tree species carries a unique vibrational signature, a lesson, a medicine, an energetic gift. Even location shapes potency. A lone tree on a hilltop gathers and channels energies differently from one woven into dense woodland. Those rooted near rivers or waterfalls are continually cleansed by flowing water, amplifying their vitality. Thus, no two encounters with trees are identical. Context and species combine to form a specific frequency, an individualized presence waiting for us to recognize it. From this perspective, the forest becomes a living temple. To walk its paths is to enter a sacred architecture built not by human hands but by life itself. Each trunk is a column, each canopy a vaulted ceiling, each rustle of leaves a hymn. Silence in such a space is not emptiness but invitation. An opening for us to join the dialogue, already unfolding among countless beings. This understanding reframes humanity's role. We are not external observers cataloging an ecosystem. We are participants invited to converse. The first requirement of that dialogue is humility. Just as one would approach a wise elder with respect, we must step toward trees without arrogance or haste. In doing so, we begin to recall what was once natural knowledge, that communication extends beyond words and into the realm of energy. Section 1 introduced Thoth's legacy and the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. Section 2 brings that principle to life in forests themselves. The macrocosm of universal order and the microcosm of human experience converge in the wood wide web, proving that cooperation, resonance, and exchange are the true laws of creation. In this network, trees model what humanity has often forgotten, that strength comes not from domination, but from connection. And so the stage is set for the next step. Knowing that forests are not collections of silent pillars but vibrant communities, how do we as individuals begin to converse with them? How does one shift from passive presence to active relationship, from simply walking among trees to truly listening? The answer begins with the art of first contact, an ancient ritual of respect that opens the door to dialogue. Once we accept that trees are conscious beings, the question naturally shifts from theory to practice. How do we begin a conversation? Most of us were never taught to approach nature as anything more than scenery or resource. Yet the ancients insisted that a tree is not an object but a sovereign presence. Establishing contact, then, requires a transformation in attitude, a posture of humility, patience, and respect. The first step is choosing. Do not overthink or analyze. Walk through a park, a grove, or a forest without agenda. Pay attention not to your rational mind but to subtle impressions. Which tree draws your eye? Which one seems to lean toward you, quietly asking for your attention? Trust that pull. It may be an ancient oak with massive limbs or a slender sapling just beginning life. What matters is resonance. The tree that attracts you is often the one whose frequency you most need in that moment. As you approach, slow your pace. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Take a few conscious breaths, allowing your energy to settle. When you stand a few steps away, pause. Close your eyes if possible. Inwardly introduce yourself. Acknowledge the tree's presence and ask for permission. You might phrase it silently as, "I come in peace and respect. I wish to connect with your energy. Will you allow me?" This is not superstition. It is recognition of sovereignty. Just as one does not barge into a person's home uninvited, one does not assume access to another living consciousness. The response will not come in words but in sensation. Sometimes there is warmth, a sense of welcome, a tingling in the hands, or a sudden calm. That is a yes. Other times you may feel blocked, chilled, or simply disinterested. That is a not now. Respect the answer. Walk away if necessary, and seek another tree. Permission is the foundation of genuine dialogue. Without it, the connection is forced, and forced interactions seldom yield truth. When you sense acceptance, move closer and place your hands gently upon the bark. A dramatic embrace is unnecessary, though some may feel inclined. Simple contact, palms against trunk, is enough. Focus on the texture beneath your skin, the solidity of wood, the quiet life pulsing beneath. At this stage, do not attempt to draw energy or impose intention. Merely be present. Allow the tree to grow accustomed to your vibration. Think of it as the handshake before a conversation, the pause before words begin. Repetition deepens the bond. Visiting the same tree regularly establishes familiarity. Just as people grow comfortable with those who appear consistently, trees too respond to recognition. Over days or weeks, the tree begins to anticipate your presence, adjusting its subtle field to receive you. Trust builds. Only then does deeper communication unfold. Once trust is present, the exchange can become mutual. Trees are masters of transformation. Just as they absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen, energetically they take in dense or stagnant vibrations and recycle them into vitality. To engage this gift, begin with release. With hands on the trunk, close your eyes and visualize heavy energies, stress, worry, anger, fatigue, flowing out of your body. Imagine them as smoke moving through your arms, passing into the tree, and down its roots into the earth. Do not fear harming it. To the tree, this process is compost, material to be broken down and reconstituted into life force. Remain in this state until you feel lighter, as though a burden has lifted. But the relationship is not one way. After releasing, shift your focus to receiving. Silently ask the tree to share its vitality. Envision bright currents rising through its roots, filling its trunk, and flowing into you through your palms. Feel this energy spreading through your body, calming nerves, clearing thought, and recharging spirit. Breathe with it. Let each inhale draw in strength and each exhale deepen relaxation. This twofold process, releasing what no longer serves and receiving what restores, is the essence of energetic communion. Taoist texts describe this as absorbing the qi of trees. It is more than visualization. Practiced regularly, it recalibrates your entire field. Over time, your baseline vibration begins to match the stability of the trees. Anxiety and anger diminish. Patience and clarity grow. You become less reactive, more grounded, more resilient. What began as a simple exercise evolves into transformation. This practice also reveals an overlooked truth. Communication is not merely verbal. The tree does not speak in sentences, yet it transmits wisdom. Its frequency enters your system, teaching by resonance. Standing with an oak, you may find courage arising in situations that once intimidated you. Spending time with a willow may soften rigid emotions, making space for intuition. Pine may strengthen vitality, reducing fatigue. These are not coincidences but reflections of vibrational exchange. The ritual of first contact, therefore, is more than ceremony. It is a gateway to realignment. Each interaction trains you to perceive life at subtler levels, where vibration is language and energy is meaning. Over weeks and months, this practice conditions you to recognize frequencies not only in trees, but in people, spaces, and even your own thoughts. It awakens discernment of resonance, what lifts you, what drains you, what aligns with truth. By approaching trees as wise elders and partners rather than objects, we rediscover a form of communication humanity once considered natural. It is not fantasy, but remembrance, and through it, we prepare ourselves for an even greater transformation. The ability to raise our own vibrational frequency permanently, stepping into the realm of conscious co-creation with reality itself. By now, the practice of tree communion has shifted from ritual to transformation. What begins as simple presence and respectful contact unfolds into an energetic dialogue that alters not only mood, but the foundation of being. The ancients taught that the universe itself is vibration. Modern physics too affirms that every particle is a wave, every atom an oscillation. To live consciously, is to learn to tune our inner frequency just as a musician tunes an instrument. Emotions are vibrations. Fear, guilt, and shame resonate at low, dense levels. Love, joy, and gratitude vibrate at higher, lighter levels. The law of resonance, central to Hermetic wisdom, declares that like attracts like. This means the quality of our inner vibration shapes the experiences we draw into our lives. Low states magnetize conflict, scarcity, and stagnation. Elevated states attract harmony, opportunity, and growth. Trees serve as natural tuning forks for the human spirit. Their frequencies are stable, elevated, and enduring. When we align with them, our chaotic patterns settle. Dress softens, breath deepens, and thought clears. In this resonance, the body recalibrates. Nervous system activity shifts from the fight-or-flight dominance of the sympathetic branch toward the rest and digest balance of the parasympathetic. Blood pressure stabilizes, cortisol diminishes, and immune response strengthens. What ancient sages described in energetic language, modern researchers measure in biochemistry. Yet the promise extends beyond temporary relief. Thoth's legacy and Taoist manuals alike speak of raising vibration permanently. The goal is not a fleeting state of calm after a walk in the woods, but a new baseline of being. Through repeated practice of releasing and receiving, the body and mind build pathways of resonance that become natural habits. What once required conscious effort, grounding, patience, clarity, evolves into instinct. The peace of the tree becomes the peace of the practitioner. Sound can accelerate this process. Just as trees stabilize vibration, so do specific tones. Ancient cultures from Egypt to India recognize the power of frequencies, embedding them in chants, mantras, and hymns. The solfeggio scale, rediscovered in modern times, describes precise tones linked with healing. To 528 Hz, cells resonate with patterns of DNA repair. At 963 Hz, the pineal gland, the so-called seat of spiritual vision, is stimulated, fostering expanded awareness. When these sounds are combined with the stable presence of a tree and the focused intention of consciousness, the effect multiplies. This triad, earth energy through roots, cosmic frequency through sound, and human awareness as conductor, activates what esoteric traditions call the light body, or Merkaba. This geometric field of subtle energy surrounds the human form. When awakened, it allows consciousness to operate at higher dimensions of clarity and coherence. In practical terms, it manifests as greater intuition, synchronicity, and alignment with purpose. Daily events that once seemed random begin to reveal pattern and meaning. Obstacles appear less threatening, opportunities more visible. The shift is not merely subjective. It impacts biology. Studies of meditation, sound therapy, and forest bathing converge on the same findings. Lowered inflammation, improved cardiovascular function, enhanced immune markers, and greater resilience to stress. Neuroplasticity research shows that repeated practices literally reshape neural pathways. Thus, what spiritual traditions call raising vibration is mirrored in tangible changes to the nervous and endocrine systems. This understanding dissolves the false boundary between mysticism and science. The language differs, frequency versus neurotransmitter, vibration versus hormone, but the reality is one. Ancient myths spoke in metaphors of divine resonance. Modern laboratories speak in data of cortisol and NK cell activity. Both describe the same transformation, human beings aligning with higher order to achieve health, clarity, and harmony. The challenge is consistency. Temporary elevation is common. A weekend hike may bring joy. A meditation session may restore calm. But without integration, the old patterns return. To anchor vibration at a higher level requires discipline, not grim effort, but steady practice. Communion with trees, listening to healing frequencies, conscious breathing, and daily rituals of grounding all build momentum. Over weeks and months, the elevated state becomes default. This is the essence of raising vibrational frequency, a shift from occasional relief to permanent transformation. It is not escapism, but empowerment. By changing the signal we broadcast, we change the reality we experience. In Thoth's words, as within, so without. When within resonates with love, without reflects harmony. When within resonates with fear, without mirrors chaos. The choice of vibration is the choice of life itself. The forest, then, is more than therapy. It is training ground. Each tree is a mentor of stability, each grove a school of resonance. By attuning ourselves to their frequencies, we learn how to sustain elevated states even in urban chaos. The goal is not to abandon civilization for wilderness, but to carry the frequency of wilderness into civilization. To be grounded like the oak in a boardroom, flexible like the willow in conflict, vital like the pine in times of fatigue. Thus, Section 4 brings us to the heart of the journey, vibration as the master key. It bridges myth and measurement, soul and science, and it prepares us for the next step, understanding how this practice, validated by ancient wisdom and modern research, becomes a legitimate form of medicine for body, mind, and spirit. The idea that trees can heal once sounded poetic, perhaps even naive. Ancient cultures spoke of forest spirits, sacred groves, and the wisdom of oaks and pines, but modern society largely dismissed such claims as folklore. That perspective has shifted dramatically in recent decades. Rigorous research is proving what sages always knew. Nature restores us, not metaphorically but measurably. Japan pioneered this exploration with the practice of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. In the 1980s, rising stress levels and related illnesses prompted the government to invest millions of dollars into studying the physiological effects of time spent in forests. The results astonished even the scientists. Participants who walked slowly among trees for just a few hours showed significant reductions in cortisol, the hormone most associated with stress. Blood pressure stabilized, heart rate slowed, and parasympathetic nervous system activity increased, evidence that the body shifted from survival mode into healing mode. Even more remarkable were the findings on immunity. Researchers discovered that trees emit volatile organic compounds known as phytoncides. These substances serve as natural defense systems, protecting plants from bacteria, fungi, and insects. When humans inhale them, our immune cells respond. Studies demonstrated that exposure to phytoncides boosts both the number and activity of natural killer, NK cells, the white blood cells on the front line against viruses and tumors. In some cases, NK cell activity increased by nearly 40% after a single day in the forest, and the effect persisted for a week or more. Such data reframes the healing power of forests. It is not simply about relaxation, though calm certainly plays a role. It is about biochemical transformation. The very air in a woodland carries medicine, invisible molecules that fortify our immune systems and reduce disease risk. What Druids once called blessings of the oak and Taoists described as ki of the pine are now identified in laboratories as phytoncides and parasympathetic activation. Different language, same reality. This convergence of mysticism and science dismantles the old divide. For centuries, wisdom was split. Spiritual traditions offered insight without data, while science offered data without meaning. Today they meet. Ancient intuition about the vibrational language of trees finds confirmation in controlled experiments. Modern researchers map neural changes, track hormone levels, and measure immune responses. But the essence is unchanged. Contact with forests restores balance. Importantly, these effects are not limited to wilderness retreats. Even urban green spaces exert measurable benefits. Studies in cities worldwide show that neighborhoods with higher tree density report lower rates of depression, anxiety, and cardiovascular disease. Hospital patients with views of trees recover faster than those facing brick walls. Office workers who can see greenery experience less stress and greater productivity. Each tree planted in a street or yard functions not just as decoration, but as a biological ally in human health. The implications extend far beyond personal wellness. In an age where chronic stress is epidemic and healthcare systems strain under the weight of preventable disease, nature offers a free, accessible, and side effect-free medicine. Unlike pharmaceuticals, the prescription is simple. Spend time among trees, breathe deeply, walk slowly, listen quietly. The dosage is measured not in milligrams, but in minutes of presence. This scientific validation empowers us to treat communion with nature seriously. It is no longer an eccentric hobby or spiritual eccentricity. It is legitimate preventive care. Just as exercise and diet are pillars of health, so too is regular connection with forests. The practice strengthens body, stabilizes mind, and nourishes spirit in ways measurable by blood tests and observable in daily mood. Yet the data alone cannot capture the full transformation. Numbers reveal what changes. Experience reveals why it matters. To step into a forest and feel anxiety melt away is not merely chemical. It is existential. It reminds us that we are not machines separated from environment, but living participants in an interconnected web. The forest heals because we belong to it. Its frequencies align with ours because they are ours, forgotten but not lost. Thus, Section 5 bridges the journey. Section 1 introduced Thoth and the principle of correspondence. Section 2 revealed the forest as networked intelligence. Section 3 described the art of first contact. And Section 4 showed how vibration elevates our being. Section 5 confirms all of it with empirical evidence. What was once myth is now medicine. The final step is integration. Healing in the forest is powerful, but it is incomplete if it vanishes the moment we return to city streets. The true mastery lies in carrying the forest within us, embodying its patience, strength, and harmony, even far from its trees. That is the subject of the final section. Learning to live as ambassadors of the forest in a world that has forgotten its language. The greatest challenge of any transformative practice is not the peak experience, but the integration. A single day in the woods may cleanse, calm, and recharge. Yet what happens when the forest path gives way to crowded streets, glaring screens, and relentless deadlines? The promise of communion with trees is not to escape civilization, but to transform our relationship with it. The true mastery is to carry the forest within. Integration begins with space. Bringing plants into homes and workplaces is more than decoration. Each leaf acts as a miniature antenna, linking us to the broader web of nature. Caring for them, watering, pruning, observing growth is a form of active meditation. It keeps energy circulating, air purified, and consciousness subtly aligned with natural rhythms. These green presences remind us that we are never fully cut off, even in the densest city. Grounding practices extend this connection. Whenever possible, remove shoes and stand barefoot on soil, grass, or sand. The direct exchange of electrons with the earth stabilizes the body's electrical field and reduces inflammation. When physical contact is impossible, visualization serves. Close your eyes and imagine roots extending from your feet deep into the ground, anchoring you to the planet's core. Whether in a subway, office, or shower, this simple act restores balance. Equally important is adopting the mindset of trees. When facing conflict, ask, what would a tree do? An oak does not rush or retaliate. It endures. A willow bends with storms rather than breaking. A pine remains evergreen through winter's harshest cold. By internalizing these qualities, we cultivate patience, resilience, and adaptability in daily life. This is the forest's wisdom translated into human behavior. Small rituals reinforce the channel. In moments of stress, visualize the tree you bonded with, releasing tension into its trunk and drawing strength in return. Use images of forests as phone or computer backgrounds to remind yourself of the connection. Pause before important decisions to breathe and recall the stability of roots and the openness of branches. These gestures, though subtle, maintain the energetic dialogue even from afar. Through such practices, we shift identity. We cease to be visitors who occasionally seek nature and become ambassadors who embody it. Our presence radiates calm and stability into environments of chaos. Colleagues, family, and strangers feel it, often without knowing why. In this way, personal transformation ripples outward, contributing to collective healing. The broader significance is profound. To carry the forest within is to dissolve the illusion of separation. The boundary between self and environment blurs. We recognize that the earth is not external but extension, that our breath is the breath of trees, our stability their roots, our clarity their canopy. This awareness marks the emergence of a new human consciousness, one defined not by technology alone, but by harmony with natural intelligence. Such a shift redefines progress. The future need not be measured solely by machines, speed, or extraction. True advancement lies in depth of connection. A civilization that balances innovation with reverence for the earth becomes sustainable in the truest sense, not merely surviving, but thriving in symbiosis. Technology and spirituality walk hand in hand. Data and wisdom reinforce one another. The forest teaches that cooperation, not conquest, is the model of survival. On the personal level, the reward is profound resilience. Elevated vibration becomes default state, not occasional gift. Clarity and peace persist even in noise and conflict. Life aligns with synchronicity. Opportunities appear at the right time. Relationships deepen. Creativity flows. These are not miracles, but natural outcomes of resonance with higher frequency. On the collective level, the effect multiplies. Each person who raises vibration contributes to the planet's energetic field. Acts of compassion, patience, and wisdom ripple outward, influencing others. The healing of one is the healing of many. Just as a mother tree nourishes seedlings through hidden roots, each awakened individual nurtures unseen networks of community and culture. This, ultimately, is the secret language of trees. It is not a vocabulary of words, but of frequencies. It is an invitation to remember who we are, co-creators of reality, partners with nature, carriers of light. To listen to the whisper of leaves is to awaken to the universal spirit that sustains all life. To embody that whisper in daily action is to heal not only ourselves but the world. The journey does not demand distant travel or elaborate ritual. It begins wherever you are, with the nearest tree, the smallest plant, the quietest breath. Step toward them with respect, open to dialogue. Release what no longer serves, receive what restores, and carry that vibration back into every moment. The door stands open, the forest waits. The question is simple. Are you ready to remember?